So there's a new whiskey on the shelves. I spotted this in Morrisons for the not too shabby price of £22, and this is a single malt which hails from Leith's Bonington distillery. Now, as some of you know, this distillery has a very strong historical connection to one of the biggest Scotch whisky merchants of all time, and that is of course John Cree. So this then begs the question, who on earth is Johnny Cree? So let's go and find out. Here in Edinburgh's Dean Cemetery is the gravestone of John Cree, one of the biggest Scotch whisky blenders and merchants of the 19th century. Now we can see from the inscription that John Cree died in 1891. But if you pick up a bottle of Cree whisky, whether old or new, you'll see that it's stated that the firm was established in 1801. John Cree, however, wasn't born until 1806. Now, I'm no Carol Vorderman, but even I can work out that it's pretty difficult to start a company when you're -5 years old. So where does this date of 1801 come from? John Cree actually started his business in 1832. And 4 years later, he went into partnership with another Leith wine and spirit merchant called William Cree. In that same year, which was 1836, Cree and Cree took over the business of James Wild & Co., which was based over on Tolbooth Wynd. Now that business, James Wild & Co., was established in 1801, and so it's this date that was stated on the bottles and has been ever since. John Cree and his wife Margaret had 8 children, and 2 of his sons continued to play a prominent role in the business. When he died, his eldest son, John Miller Cree, who is also buried here, became the director of the business. After Distillers Company Limited, the precursor to today's Diageo, had purchased Caledonian Distillery, some of the Edinburgh and Leith blenders started to get a wee bit angsty. They were worried that DCL would be able to hold them to ransom regarding the purchase of grain whisky. And so a bunch of them, including William Sanderson of VAT69 fame and Andrew Usher, as well as John Miller Cree, joined forces to establish the North British Distillery in Edinburgh. Ironically, North British Distillery today is partly owned by Diageo. But you can see that John Miller Cree only outlived his father by 7 years. He caught a chill which developed into pneumonia, finishing him off at just 63 years of age. His son, also called John, this is how things become confusing, was pursuing a military career and so wasn't involved or particularly interested in running the business. Therefore that fell to John's youngest son, George, who eventually became chairman of the firm and who's also buried here. Together with his wife and his daughter Ada. Now George also had 3 sons. George Ernest, John Edward, and William Cree, but he was cremated, so here's a photo of him instead. Well, an actual photo. After serving in the First World War, William worked in the family business, and just like his father before him, eventually became chairman of the firm. Now this is all very well and good, but I actually haven't answered the question yet. Who was Johnny Cree? Well, remember William Cree, who became John Cree's partner back in 1836? He had a son called James, who also became a wine and spirit merchant in Leith. And James is buried here. Buried for the second time, that is. The first time was in 1891 in New Mexico, after he had invested in the Angus Double V Ranch. And at some point between then and 1908, he was dug up and reburied here. Now James's wife was Agnes Paxton Cree, but her maiden name was Crabby. They married in 1853, which was around the same time that Agnes's father, John Crabby, acquired Yardheads in Leith. Agnes was John Crabby's eldest daughter, and after marrying James, they had 3 children together. James, Agnes and their son James all set off to New Mexico. In this photo of the 3 of them, from the New Mexico State University Library archives, you can see that the latter has mistakenly been named Johnny. And so it's John Crabby's grandson, James Cree, who's buried here in Dean Cemetery, who is Johnny Cree.